Right. Hey everyone, welcome. As you know, I'm Allison Kinnear, and today we are here talking with Libby about imposter syndrome and how it shows up when you maybe get laid off, maybe returning to work after a layoff, or if you're the one who survives a layoff. And I'm so grateful. I've been chatting with her, and she is just a bright light and somebody who has a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience. And I'm so incredibly grateful that you are here, Libby, to share your story, because you have been on all sides of that, all three sides of that. And
Yeah, thank you for having me.
yeah, I'd love for you to just share with us a little bit about just briefly about your journey and how imposter syndrome maybe showed up in all three of those kind of ways of being, or how it was different, maybe.
Sure. So, working in aerospace, when COVID hit, of course, the layoffs happened. The industry got hit really hard, and no one thought it was going to hit as bad as it did, because things didn't hit that bad when 9/11 happened. So they were kind of functioning the same way where, oh, it's only going to be a 2 week. And then that ended up not being the case. So then the furloughs happened, and I got swept up in one of the first rounds of furloughs, which was really difficult. You just get shut off from everything. No one can talk to you. And so you're kind of lost and you're kind of floating around, and they're like, okay, well, 10 weeks, we'll bring you back in 10 weeks. And I was like, okay, I could do this for 10 weeks of doing nothing. Sure, no problem. And at week 8, I got the call that I was getting laid off, and I was devastated. I don't have family where I live, so I felt very alone. And it really did devastate me a lot. I didn't know how I was going to bounce back from that. And they told me the day after I had just scheduled a surgery for my ankle. And so, of course, you start running through all of the feelings. You're angry, you're scared, and it's, how am I going to get through a surgery now without healthcare? And luckily, my surgeon was like, I'm bumping you, so you still have your healthcare. But then it was the recovery after that. I had to do a physical recovery. I had to do an emotional recovery. Of course, I wasn't the only person in the world laid off. And so I was up against everyone else trying to get whatever positions were open and available. And so being ghosted, not hearing anything after interviews was really difficult, not being selected for an interview. And you start to wonder, why doesn't anyone want me? What is it that I don't have when it looks like I have all the qualifications? And I couldn't even get a job as a lower level than what I was at. And so I was like, oh, this is awful. And so I spent almost a whole year unemployed, just going, why doesn't anyone want me? Why am I not good enough? And that was hard.
Yeah.
And then I got hired back. So I joined a different company, tried a new job. I've never done procurement before, but why not? I could do it. And so I helped build a procurement department, but I wasn't happy. And one of my coworkers was still in touch with me. Out of everyone, only one person talked to me. And she was kind of fishing around to see if I wanted to come back. And I do love aerospace. I love everything related to flying and travel and being part of something bigger. And so I was like, yeah, I'd be interested in coming back. Bring me back. And so I got the call to come back. I was like, yes. Well, wait, why me?
You got the call to go back to your original
Yep.
company.
Yep. So after about 10 months of working for this other company in procurement, I got to go back to the job that I lost. And I was very excited because that was the first job that I felt like I belonged somewhere. I liked the family feel of my team. They were very supportive. We celebrated birthdays and, each other and momentous things if someone got engaged or something like that. And so I was like, this is where I felt like the first time ever in my career that I belonged somewhere. So I was happy to go back. And then I got back. And I was like, what am I doing? I haven't done my job in now almost 2 years. Oh gosh, I'm going to mess up. And so I felt like I had something to prove. And so I came in, whether I like to admit it or not, with a chip on my shoulder to say, you brought me back for a reason, and I'm going to show why. And if I didn't do things right the first time, I fell apart, because I was like, they're going to realize I'm not meant to be back. They should have brought a senior level person back instead of the junior level person. And that was really hard. And after about 4 months, one of the senior level PMs pulled me aside and was like, why are you so upset about something? Like, this is so silly. Why are you mad? I was like, because I have to prove why I'm here. And that made him take a step back. He's like, what do you mean you have to prove why you're here? I go, you guys laid me off. And whether you'd like to call it this way or not, you pretty much fired me. Yeah, it's like feeling like you got fired because I didn't do anything wrong. And then I got handed a pink slip. I was like, so then you brought me back. And if I do something wrong, is everyone going to second guess why they brought me back? And that's when it dawned on him that no one else on our team could feel that way because I was the only one that had been laid off and now I'm back. And so it changed their mindset on how they could help mentor me. And so it became definitely more of a mentorship instead of trial by fire. Because I was like, this trial by fire is not working for me. I'm feeling very alone and I can't live up to the expectations of everyone else on this team that are senior level PMs. I'm not senior level, but I'm being held to your level. And that's not fair to me because I feel like I'm failing all the time. So it helped change those mindsets. And I worked with the team enough to say, let me try my own. And if I need help, I'll come to you. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, we'll let her try it out. We'll throw something at her, see what she can do. And for a while I would try for about 2 weeks and I would just struggle. I'm like, why am I doing this? Now I'm frustrated and I'm crying at my desk because why am I waiting so long to ask for help? And that's when I started saying, you know what, I'm going to give myself 2 to 3 days maximum of trying things on my own. And if I can't do anything with all the tools in my box, I'm going to go back and ask for help. So that way I haven't hit rock bottom. And when I started asking for help, they knew I tried everything because they were watching me go through all my little toolbox and figure out, okay, I went to this site or I went to this, website over here. I tried that screen over here and I'm still not getting it. And so they were watching me try. So when I came to them after 2 to 3 days of struggling, they knew I tried. Yeah. And that started lessening that I don't belong here. And they're going to figure out I'm an imposter. Because then they started asking me questions on how to do things after struggling for 2 to 3 days. Because they're like, why are we also struggling? If she doesn't mind asking questions, why do we mind asking questions? And so now everyone's asking for help sooner instead of being frustrated all the time. So that's kind of what it's been like. But you go in these waves. And then we did layoffs again recently. And this time I wasn't selected for a layoff. So at first I was like, yes, I wasn't picked this time. I proved myself. But you start to go, well, wait a minute. Why wasn't I picked this time? You get the survivor's guilt. And then you start to go into that slump again because you're like, is it something I said that caused someone else to get laid off? Did I do something by accident to lay someone else off? Does that make me a bad person? Are people going to see me as not the bright light and the goofball that I am and go, she set somebody else up for failure. So back down into the slump and trying to find my way up again. So it's been an interesting ride.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for putting all of that out there, Libby, because I mean, what I'm hearing is like the excitement of getting the job and then all the confusion that happens when being furloughed and then kind of you didn't use this word, but I almost like the betrayal of a layoff during that time, like getting a pink slip when you didn't do anything wrong. And, and then and then how would you say that the imposter syndrome, what I heard is that the imposter syndrome like really flared up when you got rehired to your position. Like that's when it was like, now I have to really prove myself because this could happen again, kind of thing.
Yeah, I was worried because we got hired back. We were expecting the industry to bounce back and people were going to start traveling again. Mm-hmm. And domestically we were, but when you're working with international, companies as well, Asia wasn't opening up like we were. And I got hired back to take on some of the programs that were in Asia. And so when they kind of flatlined because they were still very strict, then you start going, oh God, they're going to let me go again. They brought me back for something that's not coming back. And so then I started to panic and then it's, well, okay, let's take a step back and breathe. How can I help everybody else? Because come hell or high water, I am not going to get laid off again. So what can I do to maximize my skill set? And that's how I started kind of infiltrating all the other PM programs. It's like, oh, do you need I'll run over to that group and ask what's going on. You still stay on that call. I got this. And so then I started getting in with all the internal groups and learning what they did. And how does everyone flow together? What is our value stream? And then I would bring that back to the PMs, and because they were stalling because they didn't know who to talk to. They're like, all I know is I went to this person. They're like, I don't know. It's not in front of me. It's not my problem. And they didn't know where to go. I was like, oh, well, from there it goes to here. And from there it goes to this team. And then it just kind of trickles. And they're like, how do you know this? I'm like, I kind of made it my job to get in with all these other teams and learn our internal processes and the people and where the bottlenecks are. And so then I kind of became their expediter. And so I built my own little world to where I became, the specialty on something. So while the senior PMs have their specializations for sure, and they're fantastic, the internals are like, how do we navigate our own systems? We can navigate everyone else. We can't navigate our own. And so I think that's where my confidence started to grow, because while I may have struggled with maybe how do I talk to the finance team? How do I justify why I'm over budget? I struggled with that. I don't particularly like numbers. And that's where I would start to dip, because I'm like, why is this person hearing me? And how do I get cool, calm, collected like that person over there? On the flip side, they're like, why can't we get things out the door on time? Oh, let me jump in and do that for you. You need this out today? I got this. I'm your gal. And off I went.
So, I mean, what I'm hearing, what I'm hearing is like the thing that or one of the things that created the layoff situation was like underutilization, right? For lack of a better term. And so when you saw like, I got hired back, but now I'm on this underutilized part of it, that whether it was true or not, if a layoff would happen or not, it still activated that worry or that part of you that was like, but it could, because it's happened in the past, and so it might happen again. And so like even those little, and it maybe was a bigger perception, but like, who knows how true it was, right? But there was something about it that kind of like re-sparked that I better bring something of value. And then I love what you're saying is you were like, okay, if this is underutilized here, then what's the value that I can bring elsewhere? And so you were able to find that way and to kind of show other people, I am a valuable person in this team. And I'm actually helping things out, maybe not in the underutilized program that I was originally assigned to, but I'm able to support the team in other ways. And what I'm hearing from that is that built some confidence for you.
It did. It definitely did, because then I could take how I was speaking internally and transfer it to, okay, now I'm talking to people in another country, different cultures, language barriers, right? But because I was so confident, because I solidly knew what our system was and how we could get things done, and how if we can't do it, we just can't do it. And here's why. Here's all the regulations on why we can't do what you're asking. I was more confident going into those conversations. And so no one realized that on an email that I was actually a junior level member of the team, because I came in confident because I knew my stuff. I knew what I needed to say, and I held my ground. And then they hear, oh, wait, you've only been with the company for how many years? Only 2? And wait, you're how old? Yeah, we never would have guessed, because you just came in, boom, this is how it is. This is what I can do to make this work. This is what I can't do. I'm sorry, And so, being able to find my own little niche within my team, and then saying, okay, how can I transfer this to the next level? And that did help boost my confidence. But I'll tell you, when you start hearing the word layoff come back, you're like, oh, what team needs help? Can I help you? Because I'll join your team. What can I do for you?
Right. Well, and I'm hearing two things, right? Like that when title is, some people get really hyper focused on the title, but it's really like how you show up that makes an impact. And so what I'm hearing is that you over time developed your confidence and kind of was like, no, I do actually feel sure about what I know, and I'm going to step forth with that leading more so than my
Yeah.
title, and the title will catch up. You know, I mean, like
Right.
you didn't say that, but like that's what I hear, and that's been
Yeah.
always my experience. You live into that position, and the title tends to catch up with you.
It's like dressing for the job you want, not the job you
That's right.
have,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
it's kind of the same, but it's the mental side of dressing for the job
That's
that you
right.
want,
That's right.
right?
Right.
You can put a really nice suit on someone, but if they're just not a confident person, you'll
It
see through
makes
the suit.
Absolutely, and it makes a difference. And the thing, just for people listening in, if you what happens is that we want to feel confident before we take whatever action. And the way confidence works is actually you have to take lots of little actions over time, and that is where the confidence actually comes from. And so we have to take the action even if we're not confident, because it sounds like in the beginning you were like, I don't exactly know what to do, but what I
Yep.
can do is I can help, and I can connect, and I can
Yep.
do these things. And over time, with all of those kinds of experiences, you were able to be like, oh yeah, I've got this. I see things that
Yep.
maybe my other teammates don't see, I've because I have been trying to help people, and I have been trying to connect these dots.
That's
That's a beautiful
exactly how I
thing.
felt. I mean, I spent too many days crying at my desk when I couldn't figure something out. I'm like, why am I doing this? And one of the PMs, they were like, what are you crying about? What is it that we can do? And I just showed them like this whole email that I'm like, I don't know how to answer this person. I've tried 7 different ways. I'm not speaking their language and I'm now frustrated. And sometimes that's a skill that comes over time.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she said. She's like, here, we'll just rewrite this because I know exactly how they need to see it. And we did. And I went, it's really that easy. What?
I know. Well, and this is what I love about your 2-day rule or 2 to 3 day rule is like so many times people go, oh, I don't want to be needy, or I don't want to ask for help. Like,
Right.
I want to show that I'm of value, and I want to show that, I want to prove to people that I'm of value. But one of the ways we can prove to be of value is by reaching out and connecting, and not struggling in silence for 2 to 3 weeks when something could have been easily fixed with a
Right.
simple conversation. And so I love this 2-day rule of going like, I'm going to allow myself 2 to 3 days of good hard struggle
Yep.
where I'm going to try all the things that I'm going to, do all the things that I can possibly think to do. And if I
Yep.
cannot resolve it in 2 to 3 days, then I'm going to reach out to someone.
Yeah. Unless it's like time sensitive, then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to
Of
ask a
course.
question, and I feel like sometimes it might be taboo for especially women to say, I need help because we're already, fighting against so many different barriers. And it's just, well, I don't want to look weak, especially when you're in a male dominated industry.
Absolutely.
That makes it even harder when you're just looking around going, how many women are here? Yeah, not that many. Do I want to show that I don't know something?
That's right.
But then I also have the mindset of why do we keep things so taboo all the time? It's time to not be so taboo.
That's right.
And I think I learned that handling the taboo topic of miscarriages, and that was my turning point of why is this taboo to talk about? And then it's even the topic we're talking about now, the imposter syndrome. Why is that something we don't talk about? And so yeah, I'm like, I'm done. I'm just done with these taboo topics. If I need help, I'm going to ask for it, because how can you learn if you don't ask?
That's right.
So
right.
that's when I started doing that 2 to 3 day rule, because I'm like, nah, I'm never going to learn if people don't know I don't know something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I love what you're saying is like, by talking about the taboo thing helps take the power out of the taboo thing.
yes,
Whatever it is, whether it's miscarriage, or it is asking for help at work when you are the only woman on a team, or if it is whatever the taboo thing is, we take the power out of it by actually talking about it.
right.
And so and then the power comes back to you.
To us,
It
we
comes
own
back to
that,
us. Yeah, exactly. And
because
then
we
and
control how we feel
that's
about
right.
something.
And I also want to just acknowledge, you have made it also clear that this was a company you loved. It was a
Mhm.
company that felt very supportive. You even mentioned a mentor who was like, oh, I need to rethink how I support Libby. Like, I've been supporting her this way, and now I need to make a change. And it sounds like that change happened. That is an atmosphere of high trust that is an atmosphere of high respect, where, and maybe higher mental or psychological safety, where it is safe enough that you can implement a
Yeah.
2 to 3 day rule and feel like, I'm nervous about it. However, I think my team will be okay with this. And there are some company cultures that may not be the safest thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. I worked in that type of culture for 6 years, and I made a promise to myself when I left that I would never fall into that trap again. I would never give another company 6 years or even 1 year to make me feel so uncomfortable that I have anxiety going to work. I don't want to wake up and hate my job every day. That's not why I work. If I have to spend 8 to 10 hours with these people, I want to be friends with them to some level. I don't go to work with the intent to make friends. Of course, I'm there to make money and do my job.
Yeah.
But of course, I want to be friends with them at work. So we might not hang out outside of work, but I sit next to you for 8 hours. Let's chat. What do we have in common? You have a dog. I have dogs. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting being on this side where I do have such a supportive team, and they're open to also saying, we've had that struggle, or we also feel how you feel. It's just we have enough years experience that we can hide it a lot better. You'll get there, but yes, you're being mad about this. We feel it too. We're just a little bit more quiet about it. We're seasoned. You'll get there. And I was like, oh, one day I'll grow up to be like you. Okay, I'm here for that. They're like, we're 25 years in service. You're 2 years of being a PM. It'll get there. But yes, this is exactly how we feel all the time. Your frustrations are valid. And I think it's that validation that helped, because I'm like, oh, now I'm actually told, yep, that's a normal feeling.
That's right.
This is how we deal with it. And going to all of the different people on my team and learning how they deal with things. Same issue, different ways. So then that builds my toolbox, which has been a huge help, because it's like, okay, well, if that way doesn't work, I can go and try this way instead. So.
Well, and what I'm also hearing is how much connection matters. The fact that even one person stayed in touch with you while you were, separated from your original place of work.
Yep.
That when reaching out to other people helps strengthen the team. That and so this is how imposter syndrome works. Is like when you are in isolation, it has a tendency to grow and get triggered. And so day 4 of not getting the answer, day 5 of not getting the answer, then the inner critic gets all active and gets all up in your head. And even like being furloughed or being laid off and being unemployed for a year, that is isolation, being ghosted on those interviews. All of that, all of those experiences of isolation are going to absolutely increase the inner critic. It's going to absolutely increase it's going to activate the imposter syndrome, and like, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I don't belong, maybe I don't have any value. And then what immediately drops it? Having the conversation with your mentor, having that colleague, reach out, being able to ask for help, or ask like, hey, do you have a dog? I have a dog. All of those kinds of situations then helps just decrease it.
Right.
And so I think,
that's fine.
I think about you on the other side now, where, layoffs have happened, and now you're one of the survivors. And you mentioned guilt earlier, and how, and also how it feels like to be on the other side versus how it did before.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, what are you present to in that space?
So that's an interesting question, because I mentioned one-on-one with you, we have a 22-year-old intern who brilliant. And she had never really experienced a layoff like this before. And so, of course, it didn't hit her the way it hit some other people who had, known these people for 10, 15, 20 years. And so, of course, you're like, oh, I feel like I should feel bad, but I wasn't really close to them. So I'm not sad like everyone else. Nope, that's okay. That's normal. You didn't have an emotional connection to them.
Yeah.
And then she had the same feelings of, I was kept when that person was laid off over there, and she had 10 years with the company. And I said, yeah, but you proved yourself in 3 months to be more adaptable to change. and taking on more work that maybe isn't in your wheelhouse right now, and that's not what your job actually is, but you were trying so hard to learn what we do, and that showed that you have the ability to grow. And so you should be proud of yourself because you proved that in 3 months, which most people can't do in 3 months. And so it made her kind of take a step back and go, oh yeah. I was like, so be proud of the hard work that you did,
Yeah.
and don't feel bad that you got picked. And then I had to take a step back and go, wait a minute, I should probably listen to what I just told her because I worked hard too. And so I proved myself too. So it was interesting to kind of be like, yeah, you should be proud of this. Oh wait, I need to do this. Yeah, I'm proud of this. I did prove myself. And having kind of those conversations, and that more leadership of, I was like, I got to be the mentor this time of this. You got to experience something that the rest of us never experienced at 22. Because all the other senior PMs are older than we are. You've got all these different age cohorts going on. You've got your Gen Xers is what makes up most of the team. I'm the only elder millennial, I think is what I'm labeled as, because Gen Y is gone. And then you have the Gen Z. And so we all have very different experiences, but the Gen Xers didn't really ever get affected by that market crash in 2008. And I think that prepared me a little bit better than other people because I graduated with a job and then lost it immediately because of the 2008 crash, and having bounced around a lot. And I think that helped me be able to manipulate into different worlds. But here's someone at 22 that experienced what a layoff looks like. As almost like a spectator. I'm like, that's what most people at that age never get to see.
That's right.
Now you know how to process it for the next time that happens. It will happen again at some point in your career, but you're going to be ready for this. And all the other PMs are like, that's actually accurate. So
well, and it's interesting, right? Like, because different generations have encountered different things when it comes to layoffs. You know, I know I know I've spoken to people who were like, so I was born around 9/11, and then when I went to high school, then you know, like markets were crashing, and like at very pivotal times in their lives, very significant global economic events have taken place that has impacted younger than I'm Gen X, so younger generations than me, that Gen X and you know, the baby boomers just didn't experience at all. And that plays a role. It plays a role in terms of, and here we have the even younger generation coming, and she's only 22 and encountering her first layoff experience too. So these are things that are impacting not just aerospace, but also tech. And, you know, I just read today, somebody, you know, another Apple, I think, laid off a bunch of folks. And so it's definitely something that people are going through, and we're going to be feeling some reverberations, I think, for some time.
Yeah. I think we're going to go through these little waves, you know? And so I think it's oddly pretty neat that she got to experience something like that at 22 to start learning how to process it. I think all of us were like, oh man, I wish I would have learned that life lesson a lot younger than I did, right? Because the older you get, the more set in your ways you are. And then it's, how do I get through this? Because I've gone all these years with never experiencing this before. So
exactly. And that's the thing too, you know, I think about the person who maybe was with the company for 10 years, and who knows, maybe it was their time to go because they weren't adapting with the company, and it was like, this is a performance issue, this low hanging fruit, I think we can like let this person go. And sometimes it's, people are still doing great jobs and they're getting laid off because their industry just collapsed, or because the company just decided, we're no longer funding this, even though you were doing great in this, we're no longer funding it, we have no other place to put you. So like, there's lots of reasons that I think that can happen. And it can be, you know, I would imagine to have some self-reflection and go, what can I do differently in a next position? How can I make sure that I am of value and that I'm instrumental? And at the same time, maybe you go through that questioning and you go, actually, no, I was providing great work and I was providing, you know, great things. And maybe this didn't have to do with me. Maybe this had to do with something that I don't know, or I don't understand.
It took me a while to get to that
both
point.
And exactly. And so, you know, one of the things that I think about too is, if it is somebody that you maybe got, you are a survivor, I'm the you who's out here watching. It's like, if you are a survivor of a layoff, then are there really great people that you are going to miss, or that you're sad got laid off, and maybe you can stay in touch with them? Because I think there's this awkward thing that happens where it's like, I don't know, I'm the one who stayed and you're the one who got laid off. If I reach out to you, will that feel bad? Will it feel like I can imagine some people feeling torn about that. But what I'm hearing too is like, no, just a little check-in around, like, how are you doing? And I'm thinking about you, and those connections can be something that's really of service to people who maybe got laid off.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you do start to feel lonely and alone. Especially check on the people who don't have a very good support system, right?
Yeah.
They don't have family or good, strong friendship unit. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's where my big struggle was, is I don't have family here, and I don't have very many friends. Having moved to the state of Washington later in life, it's hard to make friends in your 30s. And especially the closer you get to 40, like, especially if you don't have kids, how do you meet people? And so I kind of, everything just kind of fell. I'm like, I don't think anyone, what value do I bring to anyone? No one seems to want to talk to me right now. And of course it was, well, there's COVID. You can't just meet up with people. I got laid off in 2020. Yeah. No one was getting coffee back then.
That's right. Well, and that's it. It's like, and the mind will make the meaning the mind will make, regardless of if it's like, yeah, I logically know it's COVID, and I logically know nobody's really connecting with people, and I logically know that the layoff wasn't anything of my doing, and yet the mind can still say,
yep,
yeah, but I think there really is something wrong with you.
Yep. It's that
itty bitty
shitty committee.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Oh, Libby, thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I think a lot of people can resonate with it. And, the thing that I am walking away from this conversation is just how much that connection matters. Having people to connect with is just so important, because in isolation, things can go haywire really quickly. So, in all levels, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
No matter which category you fall into.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Libby.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right. And if anybody is interested in having time like this and getting interviewed and talking about your experience with self-doubt, with confidence, with imposter syndrome, I would love to have a conversation with you. I think it helps people feel less alone. It helps to share stories with each other. So if you're interested, please reach out, and I will talk to you later. All right. Bye, everyone.